Popcorn Cloud. Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. We're very excited to have you for our Employee Engagement Strategies webinar with the theme of one of my favorites, Star Wars. So may personalization be with you. I want to take a moment to introduce one of my favorite people, a formal internal communicator and one of the most vibrant people I've ever met in my entire life. She is on my team here at Cerkl as a customer success manager. Hopefully some of you who might be in her clientele portfolio might recognize her face and her voice here. For others of you who do not know Debbie, you're about to, and you're lucky. So excited to be presenting with you.
Thank you. And let me introduce the Director of Customer Success, the boss extraordinaire, Maddie Riemann. I have had the pleasure of working alongside her for about 1.5 years now at Cerkl, and I feel like she's the actual Jedi Master, and I'm like the Padawan that's learning every day. So I'm excited, just like you are, every time I hear Maddie speak. But we are really excited to be with you today for the next hour and talk about personalization. Some of you may have been on webinars that we've done in the past. We like to do these every so often. For this one, we're always looking at our newest feature releases and enhancements to the software, and how can we show our people how others are doing it? How can we share that knowledge? So that's where this kind of came from, this episode 7, I guess. Is that what it is? Episode 7? I don't know. Something like that. I'm not a Star Wars fan. I already told Maddie she can just make fun of me the whole time. But I do think that you're going to learn a lot today. You're going to take away a lot of things, a lot of ways that other people are using the software through personalization, and how maybe you can level up your game a little bit to become a Jedi Master like Maddie and Devaney.
All right, let's get started. A little housekeeping. If you have questions, please feel free to submit them via the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Again, this webinar will be recorded. We will send out a follow-up with the recording. We're going to clip it for you to break it down into smaller chunks you can share with your team. So don't be shy. We love questions. We also have some team members on the line as well to help answer any questions via the Q&A, and then they'll pass things over if we need to answer them live. So again, feel free to use that functionality. We love these to be a little bit more conversational. Hearing us speak for an entire hour, we want to make it interactive. So do not forget about that Q&A button. All right, so let's talk about some of the Jedi lessons that we're going to be discussing today. And of course, a bunch of Star Wars quotes that Debbie read for the first time this morning. So that was pretty fun. She's like, these are actually pretty good. I'm like, I know, we should watch it. But we're going to talk about the state of internal communication, so where we stand today. You as a communicator, the landscape. We're going to talk about the practice of personalization. We're going to share some knowledge and learning from other customers. What are they doing within the Cerkl Broadcast system, and how might you apply that at your organization? That's going to be through our blast functionality, as well as News Digest and our Omni-Channel personalization. And then we're going to talk about the dark side, so what to be aware of. And then we're going to wrap it up with a little bit of a sneak peek of our product roadmap and some upcoming changes that we have been working on from the product and engineering side. All right, let's get going. So our first quote of the day really is all about the fact that we're not in this alone. We fight the good fight, and we're ready to kind of share this collaboration effort with you and make sure that we are combating all of the first orders and all the bad things that you might feel from an internal communication standpoint. We want to make sure that you feel like you're not alone. We hear the same thing over and over again. Things like our data is really dirty, or every little pixel has to be perfect. We understand that you guys have such a difficult job, but it's so impactful for your organizations. So how can we collaborate together, share those best practices, and really dive into the value you bring to your organization, because it's undeniable. I'm going to pass it over to you, Deb.
Thank you. So we did some studies and did a lot of research to try to figure out what's happening at the global level. And we came across this really interesting one that we wanted to share with you that Deloitte did. They studied American CEOs, and they asked which HR issues were the most important or very important to the success of their organization. And almost 95% of those CEOs said that effective internal communication is very important to the success of the organization. But only 22% of those same CEOs thought it was being delivered effectively in their organization. And I think that's a really telling stat because everybody realizes how important your work is, how critical it is that the messages are being delivered from the top to each individual employee. So at the end of the day, what I read out of this, Maddie, is your CEO knows that your job is super important to every daily function, every task, every individual employee. But only 22% feel like it's actually being delivered well. So ultimately, the CEO they know your work is important. They know the value that they bring to the team. But for some reason, they don't have the time, the resources, who knows, there's a myriad of reasons. But they don't feel like yours are doing it correctly. So this is where you come in. We at Cerkl want to partner with you. We want to help you understand what your work does to the global organization. So basically, if we take a look at this, it's important for you to remember that when you have strong employee communication strategies and structures, you're creating connections to the mission of your organization. You feel tied into the work that's being done. Ultimately, productivity is going to be boosted. And I also feel like an area that is not well broadcast, see what I did there, broadcast, is the way that your existing employees can help you bring in new high performers, new talent. They, once they feel a connection to your organization, now they're going to be more loyal. They're going to share those kinds of opportunities for new positions on their social media platforms. So another study that we came across from Gallup showed that engaged employees at companies where there were engaged employees, they saw 20% higher sales than those that were not engaged. And they saw 21% higher profitability. So I think it goes without saying that the numbers don't lie.
Shareholders would be happy about that.
They absolutely would. But again, when we go back to that last slide, 22% of the CEOs didn't feel like it was being done well. That's where we come in, where we want to help you try to find new tips, new tools for your toolbox to help you work smarter, not harder. How can you do the jobs that you have to do, the same tasks over and over again? How can we introduce some personalization and automation around those things so that you don't have to do the same job over and over again? And you can find new ways to actually do it better than the 22% than your CEO might think. So the $1 million question is, how do we execute on this? How do we do it better?
Yeah, I think an important factor to note here is that we have clients all across the board. Some clients have one internal communicator, some have hundreds, right? So these tips and tricks, we really want to make them bite-sized so you can take them away and really execute on them from either side of the scale here, from a one-person communication team to a 100-person communication team. So let's continue to dive in.
Yeah, so a long time ago, or is it just one long? I never saw it. In a galaxy far away, life started becoming more personalized. And I'm sure you as individual consumers understand this every day. Take off your hat of your job, right? I'm going to take off my internal communicator hat. I'm going to put on my Devaney on a Thursday evening, just getting ready to watch some Netflix. Or Devaney going shopping for Christmas stuff now, because I get started on those things early. Amazon, Netflix, they're delivering me all of these recommendations around, because you bought this, maybe you'll like this. Because you watched this, maybe you'll watch this. So it's telling me things that I already knows that I like, and it's also trying to give me new ideas for things that I might like. So now put your internal communicator hat back on and understand that once your employees walk through the door, they're expecting that same kind of personalized experience because it's so culturally normal right now. So this is where we as the communicators and we at Cerkl Broadcast are working together to try to help to deliver that same type of personalized experience to your employees that they're getting from so many other brands and organizations out there.
Yeah. So why do it externally to your clients, but not internally to your own team members, which drive your entire business? So making sure that we're employee centric at everything, every turn, every move that we make.
Absolutely.
Love it.
And you as the communicator have the opportunity to personalize through your communications. I know that when I was a communicator, we used to have a newsletter, and we, and the team had to spend a lot of time building it, and it always went out, on the last Friday of the month. Well, maybe that's not the best time that someone wants to read their company newsletter. So this is where personalization comes in. This is where you as a communicator have the opportunity to personalize communications to the employee, thus making it more effective and more engaging in the long run. And as I just told you before, higher engagement is always tied to higher retention, higher productivity, higher sales, less turnover, the costs associated with that turnover. So there's really a very, very strong tie-in to the way you communicate and how you can use personalization in order to make it more effective and engaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we really think about the value add that you bring to your team, there is this quote. It's my favorite Star Wars quote: "Do or do not, there is no try." There's no trying, right? There's only the ability for you to make moves and really to empower yourself to provide value for your employees, for your team across the board. So we're going to jump into what the philosophy is on personalization here at Cerkl. So there's things at your organization that you need to know, your employees need to know: HR policy changes, leadership updates, benefit changes. Then there are things that your employees want to know that will allow them to become more engaged with your organization. So things like industry news or professional development opportunities, wellness programs tailored to that employee. So we still want to personalize with all of these, right? But sending a million different emails per day to your employees is going to immediately reduce productivity. So how do we increase this? By ensuring that the need to know content and the want to know content are living within a realm of possibility and accessibility for your employees, and not dragging you down as a communicator. So there are two main ways that we do this. Obviously, for those of you who use Cerkl Broadcast, you're very familiar with these, and we're going to discuss the inside tips and tricks as to how you can exemplify all of these personalization tactics within the Cerkl Broadcast system. But the first one is through our email blast functionality. Every client starts with email blast functionality. So we actually take a crawl, walk, run approach, making sure that what you're doing today can be recreated and sent out with our drag and drop functionality. Then the next piece that we really like to dive into is the Omni-Channel personalization. This is taking it a step further into your communication structure and allowing for your internal employees to personalize their experience receiving the content when and where they want and how they want it. So gone are the days of publishing to every different platform, hoping everyone sees it. Publish once and pull it into the Cerkl Broadcast system, and the Omni-Channel automation will deliver that experience in a personalized fashion across these channels in real time. And a lot of clients, they pick and choose. We don't start with every single one of these. It's important to make sure that we have an understanding of what your team, their end goal is, and how we can help you reach that next level of value and personalization across the board. Anything else that I'm missing?
No, the only thing that I would say is that as a CSM, when I'm working with our people, what's really important to me is to, like you said, understand what are those tasks that you're doing over and over and over again. Is there some way that we can leverage automation and personalization to just give you back a few hours in your day, 10 hours in your week? We're going to show you some really cool ways that you can do that as we get farther into this presentation. But no, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah, we might be a little biased, but
we are.
It is amazing to see the clients and how they're utilizing it, how it strengthens their team's visibility across the board, and not to mention even the analytics on the other side.
Ooh, absolutely, analytics.
All right, so I'm about to nerd out on some best practices here. So Debbie, I'm going to pass it over to you because I know that this is their fight, this is our fight. So let's get in this together.
Absolutely. So personalized blast, as Maddie said, one-off, immediate communications that you can send now or schedule for later. And there's a lot of ways that you can layer in personalization into these. So for those of you that are already in there using Cerkl Broadcast, you can use personalization through custom fields to save yourself super time, like I said, having to create the same email over and over and over again, when you're really just changing one or two different fields of data. As I mentioned about my example with the with the newsletter, we used to have to spend a whole bunch of time building it, editing it, proofing it, all these things. And it was a major resource suck. By being able to instead pull in different things that I know people like, it just made it stronger. But with personalization and blasts, there's a lot of ways that you can really set it so that Maddie's going to get a blast that says information relevant to her. It's going to say your boss, Devaney McClarty. But for me, it'll reference my manager, Carly Toyson. So I think it's important to remember there's a myriad of ways to use it, but I just want to hit the high points. You can make any attribute a personalization field within your blasts. You can use attributes as personalization fields, both in the subject lines as well as the body of the email itself, email blast. And as I said, making this so much easier to just do it all in one place where all of the data is in one spreadsheet as opposed to an individual email for Maddie and one for Devaney and one for Alex. So you're going to see a lot of time savings over the course of time with these personalization fields and blasts.
Well, at that point, if you think about it, like as an internal communicator, if you were given the choice to send every single individual email one off, right, that's going to take you so much time. So then their only option here is to default back to just one generic message that might not resonate or doesn't really tie to the specifics of that individual employee. You're putting in between a rock and a hard place. So removing that hurdle and making sure that you have the flexibility to move and be agile with your organization and the needs of the business is key here. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about custom fields.
Yeah, so custom fields are a really amazing thing that I'm excited to talk some more about how our clients are using it. But custom fields allows you to leverage data that's not automatically built into your integration. So it doesn't have to be something that's in there permanently, like employee ID or last name, first name. This is dynamic data that you can set for one specific blast, and just that's it. It just goes out, and then in the next blast that you're working on sending, you can put totally new data in there. So I think it's important for you to understand here that, well, we'll talk about it a bit more later when we get in the dark side. But this does allow you to be really adjust on the fly, adaptable, and you can do things faster. Where we have seen people crushing it, as I mentioned, we will talk about it more later. But if you're building an IT communication for people having to do with passwords or software updates or changes along those lines, this is where you can really save a lot of time through the custom fields. That's not data that's going to be normally available through your integration, but by using these things that you can name your own way, they don't have to be called custom one. It can be called, a migration date, or it can be called software update, or it can be, what's another good example? Like a training completion module. All of these things can be really dynamically inserted so you don't have to do it all the time. So
these are still one-off emails. These are still one-off emails that you're sending that'll be delivered, individually to your employee's inbox as a standalone piece of content. So this is just the tip of the iceberg here.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about those tactical examples that I really think people are going to be hungry for. So some of the things that we've seen working with over 300 plus organizations in Cerkl Broadcast clientele base, we see things like group training sessions. If you break out group training sessions, there's a bunch of them, different locations, being able to include that information in a one-off upload and send one email with a dynamic field of group training session, and it sets custom deadlines and dates. So if one department has a deadline for their IT security training versus another department, you can upload that and send those out across your entire organization. Some other examples here.
I love employee appreciation things. Marvel and me, I'm really just about trying to engage our employees. And one way that I've seen some of my customers that I work with really crush this is through targeted communications to employees around events. If you have several different headquarters offices, or you have different just offices around the world, if you have one employee appreciation event might be having hot dogs, the other one has Chipotle or a food truck. This is a way that you can use these custom fields to put in the times, the locations, the special things that are going to be happening for the festivities. Another example would be employee recognition. So I've been at places and I've heard of many people using it this way today, where they are trying to call out their top performers when maybe I nominated Maddie for a value award here, and it needs to then be blasted out to everybody so that they can know Maddie just got this amazing value award. That's a really nice way to share that Devaney nominated Maddie and good job, Maddie. But instead of having to do that 87 times for the 87 different value awards that you got this month, now you can just create some custom fields, put them in there, and it goes out very custom to the person. Love it.
Absolutely. So a few other ones that we have: work anniversaries. Ironically enough, it is my 7 year. So it feels like it's been like just only a few days. But work anniversaries, that's a big, big deal. When you have your employee base, you want to ensure that their tenure is recognized. So including things like congratulations on work anniversaries and birthday wishes. That's one of the number one things that we hear internal communicators ask for, like, oh, we can send our birthday wishes through this, and it doesn't have to, it doesn't have to be a one-off manual thing or a group message for every single month, right? Where you're just grouping everybody together. It can be a little bit more personalized. So those are some unique ways in which you can celebrate your team members, drive engagement, right, which drives retention and to the bottom line of the business as well.
It makes it feel more like feelsy,
Yes.
the feels. How else do we have people doing it? So let's, Maddie has shared some really interesting things with me. I've never worked in a place where we got shuffled around a lot. But after hearing from some of our customers and from some of the things Maddie has shared, it sounds like a major disruptor. And when you think about the amount of time that people have to spend going into the email to go through the chart to figure out when is their zone moving, or, when is their old zone shutting down and completely unavailable, so they have to have all their stuff out. We're seeing a lot of people use this kind of functionality through custom fields in this way as well. New device allocations. Perhaps you have some part of your employees that are using a Mac. Some are maybe using a PC. If you are trying to communicate in a personalized way to some of those employees, you can definitely leverage custom fields in that way too. And password expirations. I'm seeing this a ton. I don't know what your work's policy is, but here we do have some security that we are keeping up on. And knowing when that password is going to expire, knowing how I do it, a reminder of how to do it, is really a lot. It's just really helpful to me as an employee. And it makes me feel like, wow, my company isn't just putting this thing out on our SharePoint or on our blog, letting everybody know how they're supposed to do it. This tells me what Devaney needs to do in order to be successful at her job. That makes me feel more connected. And as Mindy said, all of those other positive flows. So yeah.
So
great stuff here.
The desk reassignments, that's a very big one, as you mentioned a moment ago, especially coming back from, hybrid, in-office, mergers and acquisitions. We are seeing a lot of this right now. So being able to communicate one-off, hey, this is where your new desk is, this is the date you need to be moved out by. Again, so much better than just attaching a spreadsheet that, might have, version control issues, or linking it to some deep, dark place in SharePoint that everyone forgot existed. So again, these are some things that we're seeing more recently, especially around, people going back into the office after COVID and things of that nature.
Great point, Maddie. Great point.
We also see a lot of these. So 401k benefits updates. I know our internal comms team, our people team uses this quite often for us at Cerkl. Making sure that we are up to date on our 401k. What is our 401k match and any other unique benefits that we may have. Some employees might be eligible for something versus others may not. Every employee is selecting their own packages. So being able to communicate that in a succinct way is key and saves you lots of time.
So much time saved. A couple other ways that I've seen some people using this, and I think that this could be really integral, as Maddie said, when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, is facilities related communication. So people may be, as she said, returning to work in the office and understanding, when there's going to be road closures, when there may be parking, lot issues at certain places. You can put a lot of different things in there. And I love it, just the little thing, what does it say there? Security training days. Absolutely. Perhaps it's, all of a sudden we had to move all of our trainings from one place to another.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, think about the disruption associated with that. Oh my gosh. well, Matt, or maybe it's two at the same time. I've been an internal communicator and it just comes all at once. So I really have seen a lot of people using these custom fields in a unique way to try to communicate when are things available, when are things going to be closed.
And then for healthcare, we see a lot of this with their operating rooms. So being able to schedule specific operation rooms, ORs, which nurses are on schedule or on call, things of that nature too.
Absolutely.
All right, so a few more. We have salary increases. So, your year-end salary increases, performance review scores. I was just laughing with Debbie today because our team does quarterly performance reviews, and there's a score allocated, which aligns with additional bonus opportunities. And through Cerkl Broadcast, that can be sent out immediately. And it's not that one-off message that you might have to send in Slack or send via email. And the managers are responsible for that. Allowing them into the world of Cerkl Broadcast and seeing the visibility and the availability of something like this will increase their day-to-day and make it much more succinct and documented. You can see insights, all the analytics. So this is a big one as well.
And scalable. I think it's, if you are a growing organization today, you may be able to send these things out to the 50 employees you have. But once you get to 500, what does that look like? How, being able to eliminate that middleman. Oh my God, I know, right? Being able to eliminate that human error, right? The possibility for human error of copy and pasting, of having to, put in somebody's email and then, oops, accidentally gave you a 52% raise when you should have had, a 5.2 or something. I think that's a really important thing to note here as well, because we get stressed out before we hit that send button on things, and knowing that this is all automated and you've got it in there through these custom fields is going to be a little less stressful for you, I hope.
Yeah, and a lot of companies have HR systems that might automate this stuff, which is fantastic. But allowing you to include these in other forms of communications to do it like a quarterly wrap up, where it's not just automated from your HR system. You can give them additional information. Like, here's your wrap up. This quarter you had this many peer reviews or acknowledgments or value awards. You also had this performance score. Here are your end goals, your bonus allocations. So it allows you to be more scalable and flexible, and not just be stuck with the automation that might be included in your HR systems today.
Couple more. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about back to work, but also reorganizations are happening all over the place. I can't even tell you how many of my customers. I think crazy. And like I said, the mergers and acquisitions and just, people trying to do things better together, I think is really important here. But I think that when we're talking about the custom values, being able to quickly communicate out those things, they can be very time sensitive. So it's important that you're able to get those things together, the data together, and also be able to deliver it in a very clear and succinct way.
And quickly. Right?
Yes,
I think I've seen like one client that needed to get things spun up very, very quickly because the merger or acquisition occurred and they needed to be able to communicate to the new employees immediately, like yesterday. Yeah. So being able to do something like this on the fly and not being, not be beholden to the IT team to generate a list and send out through any other system. Again, it just feels super flexible and super, super valuable.
Absolutely. And I think it's so stressful. I mean, you're already under the wire. You sort of see the seconds hand just tick, tick, tick. And I also just want to say, Maddie, that another thing that is really, I just want to hammer it home, these custom fields are not things that are pulled over through your integration. Those are already set up, right? You've already got those at your fingertips. This is for data that isn't in there, but that is really important that you can leverage because it's unique to each individual person. So again, time can be saved in a lot of ways through these custom values and being able to manage them in a way that makes your job easier. Maybe isn't from data that's readily available to you already in Cerkl Broadcast, but you need to communicate out on very specific things.
Love it. All right, so I think we've drilled home some flexible ways in which you can use a custom field, personalization field within our one-off email builder, so our blast functionality. Now let's talk about our bread and butter. And our CEO, when he built the Cerkl Broadcast system, he started with this piece: the Omni-Channel, the news digest, the ability to cut through the noise. And this is one of my favorite parts. So let's jump in.
Let's do it. Okay, so before we go on to digest, I just want to say we are always encouraging people that are using Cerkl Broadcast to reach out to their CSMs. We love to talk strategy. We love to try to find ways that you can do what you're doing better, smarter, easier, more accurate, however, in Cerkl Broadcast through blasts. And like Maddie said, the insights, which you're definitely not getting when you're sending these 47,000 emails through Outlook, right? It's sent and then you, hope they read it. But News Digest, we are hearing a lot of organizations that are trying to build strategic goals around communication, channel management, content creation, and this is for both internal and external audiences, right? Not just internal. But a lot of people are also transitioning to new technologies, SharePoint Online. I've got a lot of customers that are moving into SharePoint Online. And I think that it's really important for people to understand that all of these things are going to take time, right? You're transitioning to a new CRM. You're transitioning to a new place to house your content. What Cerkl Broadcast does through the personalization and the News Digest is allow each person to receive a News Digest based on their, what they want to see, what they need to know, like Maddie had said. But there's always going to be a part of your audience that does not personalize, and that's fine too. We want them to, because we're going to show you some stats around why we think personalization actually matters and why we want you to let it happen. But if I'm the kind of person that my daily schedule starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 5 p.m. every day, and I have the ability to go in and say, you know what, company that I work for, I want to get my stuff at 7:30 in the morning because I'm the kind of employee that wants to read all the stuff before I start. This personalization and News Digest allows them to do that through a welcome email, which gets sent out and allows them to choose how they want to get it, when they want to get it, language, a lot of different options. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, because maybe my colleague who sits next to me doesn't start work until later. Or when they walk in, it's just constant chaos and they don't have any time to read those communications. So maybe they are going to say, I want to receive my News Digest later in the day. So as I said at the beginning of this, I used to work at a place where that newsletter was going out on the first Friday of the month, every month. Well, guess what? If I'm not somebody that works on that Friday and I come in the next week on Monday and I'm right in it, I may miss that altogether. So News Digest allows you to personalize your experience, we'll get to that, but when you're going to receive it and what types of information you might want to receive as well.
Can you think of shift workers or people in healthcare where they're working 24 hours shifts?
They're on a line, they don't have time to.
Yeah. So lots of applicable scenarios here, but the biggest thing is you as a communicator set the default. You still have that control. When would you like this to go out? And they don't need to personalize, but we do want them to personalize. That's where the socialization comes into play as well. So let's talk about that personalized experience that is delivered to them in their inbox. And obviously, as we mentioned before, it goes across all these other omni-channel experiences. So it's not just limited to the inbox, and all those channels speak to each other. So if I see something in Teams, I'm not going to see it again in my News Digest, my wrap up. But let's talk about some of the things in which we've seen from our clients and how they're utilizing this personalized experience.
Absolutely. So if you remember back to what we were talking about with the Netflix example in the beginning, after we finish watching your show, Love is Blind, I don't know, then it may start showing you other reality love shows, right? Because you watched this, you may be interested in this. Boosting is another example of a way that you can allow some of your content to get higher visibility for topics that some people are more interested in. So as I said, I'm loving employee engagement. I love talking about it. I want to see every single blog that you put out around employee engagement. By boosting that, this allows you to get that story in front of not only people that love employee engagement because they read everything, but if somebody has said, maybe I'm interested in learning a little bit more about it, by boosting that piece of content, it will put it in front of them and show a little, I don't know if you can see it up there in the corner, but you see we've got some little badges up there, a top story, a trending, a just for you. You can really use those little tokens to just get their attention drawn to the place that maybe is more relevant to them. Perhaps a nurse, maybe my colleague is a nurse. she wins an award. And I want to boost this piece of content to people that are nurses because they're more interested in hearing about their friend and how great they were. So I think there's a lot of different ways that you can deliver personalized experiences through boosting. It makes me feel like it's more tailored to me. Also, you can also restrict to segments. So if I work at my location in Chicago and we are having a Chicago-based thing, you can just say, this is only relevant for the people that are in our Chicago employees segment. And that is also going to feel like a very personalized piece of content for me. It's hyper local. It's just for me and the people that are around. Maddie, who works in our Cincinnati office, she doesn't get too cahoots about what's happening in the Cerkl, Chicago office.
I do care.
Yes, no, of course, very much. But she's going to be angry when I get Chipotle and she's getting Chick-fil-A probably or something.
Yeah. Chicken's okay. I don't mind it. No, but I think that this is an important aspect to really understand when it comes to all of the requests coming to you as an internal communicator. You have to figure out what does get the priority. And with these pieces of functionality, you can automate a lot of that. You can make sure that, yes, this person's story that they think is the top most important thing that anyone in the company's ever seen can be prioritized to the people that it makes sense to, but allow for it to be sent to others if they're interested, right? I know having those conversations with clients, I hear that all the time. Is that you have to combat that idea where you have other people in leadership or other departments or other people just creating content. You have to tell them, hey, your story isn't the most important thing in the world. How to do that and how to do that in a structured way to allow for some type of personalization and prioritization for the people that fit their rule sets, their segments, is powerful. It kind of takes that load off your back and doesn't make you the bad guy. So,
but we understand that you have bosses to report to as well that expect to know when was this shown, how often was it shown to our employees.
you have to go.
You absolutely do. So personalization, you'll let go of some of the reins and the control, but overall, you're still going to be able to say if something needs to be seen by every single employee, if it's a required piece of content, you can still do that. If it's a priority, it's, we're having a major conversion to our core system or something on Friday, and everybody needs to see that multiple times. You can still do that too. We don't need to lose all the control. We just want you to get a little more comfortable with understanding that Cerkl Broadcast can help your employees. Strategy, and just help them feel a little bit more connected. If you can just move the needle that much, it can go a long way with your employees.
Imagine having an individual news digest for every single employee, right? That's what this does. It doesn't make you required to nitpick this piece of content goes here. We're going to help assist you in expediting all of that. So this piece of content can go at the top for this group, but it doesn't have to go at the top for this group. So then you're not duplicating the newsletters or news digest you create just to appease the other departments and division heads around the communications, right? So this puts you in a strategical mindset versus a more tactical. And I love that.
Absolutely. And Maddie mentioned earlier that we have different clients, different size teams. So some are one-person communications team and some are 100. But content management is sometimes really challenging when you're a one person. So if you are interested in learning more about News Digest, maybe we work with you only and you're using blasts right now. I've got a lot of people that I'm talking to, a lot of customers right now that are starting to gnaw on this, this idea of News Digest and why should we really do this? And so I'm excited for us to keep going because we've got some great data here to show why we should really go down this route.
Absolutely. So what we're seeing within our client base, we find that personalization can increase the open rate. So our subscribers who have personalized see a 55% increase in open rates versus the non-personalized. So this is super, super powerful. And imagine if you had your employees open 55% more of the communications you send, right? I mean, ideally, we'd like them to open everything, but cutting through that noise and seeing statistically that the personalized communications and the people who have personalized, who have bought in and set their preferences, we're seeing a 55% increase. That's massive. What communications are they missing if they're only opening 4 out of, I don't know how many that is,
Yeah,
say 10.
a lot less.
Yeah.
They're missing out on a lot of the important stuff that you and your team are building and putting together in blogs and in, just emails and everything and notes.
Absolutely. And that doesn't just persist across open rates, it does with click-through rates as well, which for us is like a true metric around engagement, right? Not only like opening it, you can always open something and you're not really paying attention. When they click, you're seeing that they actually are engaging, right? They're taking a call to action and applying that. So we see for the subscribers that have personalized, we're seeing a 121% increase in click-through rates. That's massive.
So
it's massive. The average click-through rate for personalized subscribers for our internal comms clients specifically is at 52%. That's the national average is much, much, much lower than that. So we like to see those stats, and we are always advocating for the organizations to really socialize the way in which the personalized communications can be used at their organization. So you entice your employees to go through and personalize that experience and truly understand the value that they're bringing, that you are bringing for them, right?
We also love talking about socialization in our CSM meetings and just around Cerkl Broadcast or around the Cerklverse in general. So we would love to have conversations about your click-through rates and maybe how we can help implement this kind of strategy to really bump those numbers up.
Yeah, and we always hear throughout the implementation cycle when we're about to go live, obviously every client is assigned a dedicated customer success manager like Stephanie. And all that socialization is a big to-do right before we go live, right? Like it's constantly, we got to tweak this message. We're going to send this out to leadership to remind them. Then we're going to send this out to the employees. And then we're going to talk about it at the town hall. That's fantastic. But let's not let it just stop there, right? You can still socialize these aspects of the way in which you personalize that employee experience even after you've gone live. So reminding them that this is something that you have provided for them, that personalized experience like they're used to with every other platform they use, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify, all of those things really will allow for them to understand and respect the communications and the organization to be more engaged, which will drive retention. I feel like I'm going to say we should record it, yeah, right? So it really is powerful to just, not only think about socialization right at the initial onset of your implementation, but how can you continually entice and engage your employees? And then you also have the aspect of new employees, brand new employees. When someone gets hired at your organization and you have, and you're utilizing the Omni-Channel personalization of Cerkl Broadcast, then each one of those new employees will organically see a personalized experience right off the bat. And imagine you as a new hire at your company, if that was the first thing that you saw, the first thing you felt is your organization really caring about you and wanting to ask you, when do you want to receive this? What are you interested in hearing about? So it really is powerful, not only, again, from the initial onset of implementation and launch, but it has a massive impact even after that.
Absolutely right. Socialization is forever.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so we have a couple questions here. What are some of the ways clients have promoted the personalization process? We would like to get more of our employees to pick their categories, delivery, daytime frequency for news digests. Great questions. One of my favorites, and this is a longtime customer of Cerkl Broadcast from way back in the day, University of Cincinnati. They created an entire campaign called Personalize Your Flight Plan. The University of Dayton are the flyers, and they had this video that they created, a little graphic video of Personalize Your Flight Plan, and they posted that everywhere. And it was really a really cool sentiment because everyone, they all know they're flyers, right? As a UD grad, like you're a flyer, and you want to personalize that flight plan with your alma mater or for faculty and staff even. So all of those things I've seen work really, really well. We've even seen some customers in manufacturing do like promo days where they had smoothie carts, right? It's all about what are your employees like and what's going to get them jazzed. Maybe food, smoothies, maybe t-shirts. If they're shift workers and are required to wear, polo or something with your brand on it, giving them the opportunity, hey, the first few 100 people who do XYZ get this little tiny gift or a little swag item. We've seen that work very well. And I would say outside of that, it really is about understanding who your employees are and being creative with that. One of the ways in which healthcare, it always cracks me up. Every time I talk to a healthcare client, I hear about their lunch menus. Like, what's on the lunch menu? Every employee wants to know what's in the lunch menu, what's in the cafeteria at the hospital. So what some of our healthcare clients have done is make sure that on their digital signage in the cafeteria, that it's blasted all over there. Hey, you can personalize your experience. You can download the mobile app. So it truly is about understanding where your employees are and who they are. And that's where the beautiful brains like Devaney and the other CSMs within Cerkl Broadcast can assist you in that. Some of my favorite conversations do a little whiteboarding session and figure out, hey, how can we be creative here?
Absolutely. Depending on if you do have a lot of remote workers or in person, can really change how you socialize as well.
Mm-hmm.
If there are common areas at your organization where people congregate, meeting rooms, cafeterias, like Maddie said, little table tents that talk about what you're trying to do. QR codes, absolutely. So there's a lot of really creative ways, but I think that understanding where your audience is, where your employees are, and trying to get the messaging in front of them, and then ongoing education, right? Being top of mind with, we really care about you as an employee. We really want you to feel like, we're delivering information to you that you feel is critical to you to do your job and that keeps you interested as a human. So I think that there's different things that can be done there around socialization. But for those of you on here that have a CSM, we would love to talk to you more about socialization and how we can help to increase that personalization rate at your org.
Absolutely. We have another question. How is content personalized for channels like SharePoint and the mobile app? This is a great question. So throughout the Omni-Channel experience, what our system is doing is automatically taking the content that is available for that individual employee on SharePoint or the mobile app, and it will automatically personalize that experience based on things they haven't seen yet or have seen, based on things they have clicked on and engaged with in the past. So it's looking at that whole Netflix style. I watched The Goonies, and it's going to suggest that I watched Stranger Things afterwards. We're using keywords and categories on the back end to personalize that experience, but you as a communicator also can override some of those and set top stories and segment or restrict segments for an individual piece of content. So the best piece about that is not only are all of those channels personalized automatically in real time, but each of those channels also speak to each other. So if Devaney's clicked on a piece of content within the Teams app or the SharePoint plugin that we have, then she opens up her mobile app an hour later, it's not going to show up again. She's already seen it. She's already engaged with it. We already know that. Let's make sure whatever is next up on her list of priority is really front and center for her. So real time across all of those channels. So each one of those experiences is completely unique for every single employee.
Absolutely. If I'm somebody that only has time to get on Teams all day and I can't check my email till the very end of the day, I can still be getting content delivered to me through Teams. And that's a personal experience to me because I use Teams. Maddie is an OR room, operating room surgeon or something. And yeah, she's got a whole different, another tiny personal experience that she needs. So I think that's another way. It's not just about the content itself, but it's also the way the experience is personalized based on how you interact with the content and what channel it is.
Absolutely. Great questions. All right. So let's keep going. So we're about to talk about the dark side.
That's right. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So this is also one of my favorite quotes, but the dark side clouds everything. Impossible to see the future is. And it's my favorite Yoda. I'm such a nerd. I was so excited when we were doing Star Wars. I'm like, yes. But I think that the big thing here is it's impossible to see the future when you get clouded by all these things that are coming at you, all these requests for priority, and you're inundated as a communicator. So how can you make sure that you're being strategic and really leveling up your communications and putting the employee's experience at the forefront of what you do? So let's talk about some of those.
Yeah. So we talked about it a little bit. Control is still important. We know that you need to make sure that certain things get sent out at certain times or in front of this correct segment or audience. But if you don't have a balance of that required stuff and the need to know and the want to know, you're not getting that same type of personalized, the employee isn't getting the same type of personalized experience. So we want you to lean in and believe that by giving up some of the control, you're actually bringing them into your force a little bit better. So thank you. Thanks so much. So don't miss out on the benefits of the personalized experience because you're trying to force them to see certain things in certain orders. That was the old way, and a new way.
One of the things that I see the most like interactions with customers right at the get-go is they might try to set everything, at 5 stories as top story. And I'm like, so we have a conversation, hey, maybe that should be a blast. That should be a one-off email, right? So having those discussions with the Cerkl Broadcast team and letting us guide you and sharing those best practices, don't be afraid to ask us. And again, that's what we're here for, to assist you in the implementation and then the continued success of your use of Cerkl Broadcast. So those discussions are pretty fun to have. And then also leads to us understanding better use cases and allowing for us to submit, product feature requests, and overall just knowledge sharing from all organizations.
Absolutely right. Because we're not alone. That was the earlier.
Yeah, we aren't alone. Exactly. We're going to see that. I love it.
Another thing is around categories. So be cognizant of how you're categorizing things. If you are the type of organization that has TEI initiatives and you are putting, every women's networking thing in DEI, you're really kind of cross-pollinating those categories. Because if I'm interested in it because it's a women's thing and I click on it, but Tarek's interested in it because it's more of a DEI thing, once he clicks on it, now our system's going to say he likes women's things too. And it's going to start delivering him content.
Yeah. So the biggest thing here is to make sure, right out of the gate, communicators' default is to just click every single category because they want it to go to everyone. But being strategic about those categories, that's why throughout implementation, we have those discussions with you. What does your taxonomy look like today? How can we apply that into Cerkl Broadcast and then enhance it and make sure that we're not just by default selecting every single category, because that can reduce the validity in the personalized experience across the board. The good news is we're here to help for all of that. We find those situations as opportunities to share learnings and to truly understand where you guys are trying to head and make sure there's additional training and resources available to you. So,
absolutely.
Love it. All right. So last but not least, before we open up for QA, I want to give you a little sneak peek of our product roadmap. I got sign off from our head of product. So thank you, Rachel Foles. I am excited to show you some of the things that are upcoming in our product roadmap. So let's dive in. This one's actually already out into production as of Saturday of this week. So I did leave it in here because some of you might not have seen it yet, but we're really, really excited to roll this out. So this solution for campaigns will allow for you to group specific messages or email blasts into a collection, so to speak. Then it assists you in the analytics side, as well as just overall grouping and consolidation and organization too. So we've heard this for quite a while now from our customers. So this is something that you actually have in your hands today. If you are a Cerkl Broadcast user, you can head to the Blast tab, and then on the left-hand menu side, you will see campaigns. So feel free to start playing around with those. Some great functionality. You can simply add Blast to those campaigns, create campaigns on the fly, and then you can access them in the future. So you can search to find, let's say, your 401k or your benefits messages from 2022, because you maybe want to just duplicate them and change a few things. You don't have to recreate the wheel. It allows for a lot more visibility into your individual communications in a strategic way. Next is Slack for Broadcast. So we're a big Slack house here. We also have Teams, so some team members use Teams, some use Slack. I've heard that a million times from other customers, especially if you have any mergers or acquisitions. There might be a division that uses Teams, and you're like, well, what about Slack? So this is something we're very, very excited to bring to the table as a new channel in that suite of omni-channel communications around personalization. So coming soon, this isn't currently in progress, so it's in flight. Our developers are building it out as we speak. And what this will allow for you to do is send individual stories to a Slack channel, a public Slack channel, to reach your audience there. And then we have restricting access to segments. So this is probably my favorite one. I know I've been banging down product store for a bit about this because I feel it from our communicators and the ability to make sure that not only are you setting permissions around the sender profiles or the sender proxies who you can send on behalf of, but this would allow you to set those restrictions at the segment level. So let's say Devaney can only send communications to the customer success team, right? She doesn't need to send anything to the IT or engineering team or the product. But I might have a little bit bigger access across the specific segments within my Cerkl Broadcast instance. So I'm excited for this for a myriad of reasons, but I know a lot of our customers are scratching for this as well.
I have heard this so much, Maddie. Just the governance around what communicators are trying to do is really hard. And there is a major risk associated with not being able to lock down who someone can send to. And we've had some major emergencies as a result of that. So we know what's happening.
Yeah. So we're excited to roll this out and make sure that the overall governance is available for all of you. And then of course that might reduce the requirement for us to have child instances, which right now is our solution for this. But to keep things succinct into one account, overall control, governance, and visibility from the admin level. So we're really, really excited. All right. So other than that, I wanted to open up for questions. I know I kind of sped through the last few minutes here, but we do have just a few more minutes. And I think we have one question coming in or a few. Do you foresee integration with the Google Workspace? That is a great question. We have chatted a little bit about the opportunities for things like Zoom chat and other omni-channel experiences. There isn't anything specifically in the works today around Google Workspace, but I would love to have your CSM connect with you and discuss what that use case would look like. What would it look like for your availability into the Google Workspace? How is your team using it today? We're constantly looking for new ways to improve not only our current feature set and our functionality, but develop new features functionality. So I will definitely make sure that we have your CSM connect with you and learn a little bit more about that. So we can bring it to product. Oh, did you know?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, that's every time. All right, so we have another one coming through. We're using Outlook today and personalization is impossible. Where do you recommend we start? I hear you. I totally understand. In the case of Outlook, really being able to kind of break down what are you sending today? What would you like to send? And taking a channel audit. I would suggest, I don't think I see a name here, but we can connect offline. I'd love to share those best practices. We've had plenty of customers come from Outlook to Cerkl Broadcast and seeing their evolution as to how they could use a system like this might be of interest to you. There are some little tips and tricks, but they're very manual within Outlook. Creating HTML templates, you got to know HTML or CSS, and I can tell you I'm dangerous with code, but not that good. So there are some tips and tricks, but I've heard it's quite manual. So love to connect with you offline and discuss further. All right, Devaney.
Maddie.
We are at the top of the hour. I think we have a few more questions, and thank you to our internal team members who have been vetting the Q&A and answering those for us. But we'll take a look and make sure everything did get answered. If anything didn't, we will follow up with you in an email response from your CSM. And then last but not least, we will make sure to send over the recording and a follow-up and any additional resources that we think might be valuable to you. We really, really appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us. And I am getting a little hot and sweaty in this room. I'm ready for some air, some ventilation, but hopefully you enjoyed your time as well. And we appreciate you spending this last hour with us.
And I would also just like to say, if you have ideas for future webinars, future things that you might like to hear best practices on, we want to hear from you. We want to make this as relevant and a great use of your time as we can. So please feel free to let your CSM know if you have any ideas for future best practices webinars.
Thank you.